In 1968, 26 people gathered at a remote location in the high desert of Southern California to engage in a newly designed form of contemplation. Its sole purpose? To bring the participants to direct knowing of the self, in short, an enlightenment experience. One of those attendees was 23-year-old engineer Ed Riddle. At this first Enlightenment Intensive, as they are now called, Ed had a deep, direct experience of his true nature. Since then, Ed, also known as Edrid, has been driven by a profound desire to experience the truth of who and what he is, and to become directly aware of the fundamental nature of life. Taking intensives, he had many more enlightenment experiences of what he is, who he is, what life is, and what love is. Edrid has gone on to master enlightenment intensives for over 30 years, helping many people around the world to have their own enlightenment experiences. Edrid joined me, Shari Bernson, in Boulder, Colorado, for a conversation about enlightenment and its impact on relationships and connecting deeply with another.
I first got into some kind of enlightenment process when I met a teacher who said things to me that I cared about, and it was like a very direct connection. He was describing how my mind worked, how a mind works, or how what thought is, what mind is, what consciousness is. And at first I didn't like it, actually. I resisted it a lot. Personally, I just thought he was full of it. And but I kept going because I was kind of curious. It was just this little place in Newport Beach, California, and this man was talking about these enlightenment topics. And so I had a friend, a dear high school friend, and he and I would sit in this coffee shop in Riverside, California, and argue about it. And we just get into it. We just argue about, that can't be true, this could be, and we just digested this stuff. We really got into it. Sometimes we'd sit in this restaurant for 4 hours at a time, and we'd just go on and on and on. And every time that I had objections to these things, I think I was wrong. That there was some important opening that started to happen at that point, because I could discover that I was wrong, that I was limited in how I understood things. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I was digging in.
It challenged you.
Was it
challenging your belief system that you had at that time?
And it hurt my ego.
Hurt your ego.
It did. It hurt my ego. When I was a kid, I was a techie sort of a kid. And what interested me was electronics. And I had a lab out in my garage, and I would be building things and making sparks.
Wow.
I just had a fascination. I wanted to know how these things worked. And so what I was drawn to was the physical sciences, and learning about Ohm's law and learning about how you wire tubes, old vacuum tubes. I'm getting old, so it was vacuum tubes in those days. And one time I discovered that if I put deep rods into our lawn and connected those to an amplifier, I could listen to the earth. Oh. And I spent hours and hours. There's some strange sounds that go on, at least in my neighborhood. And I was just, that was my scene, and I'd go out in my little lab and design and build all these little circuits, and had a wonderful time. And the science is kind of divorced away from spirituality, which is thought of as sort of a superstition, mm-hmm. all those kind of superstitious ideas. So I was kind of in that camp of not wanting to be involved in superstition. It was a kind of a hard, practical reality, a physical world, and that's really the truth of it. And I didn't have a clue that there was anything beyond that, that I might be able to tap into. For whatever reason, it's just the way I came at it. And so I needed to find a way to kind of get it introduced in a way that I could understand, or that attracted my attention the same way the physical sciences and sort of ordinary life was attracting my attention.
What is the true mystery of life when it comes to more of an Enlightenment perspective? Does that make sense, that question?
It certainly is a mystery in terms of why you're here and what your nature is. Does it ever occur to you, for example, that your awareness that you have right now is a very exotic thing?
To become aware of that awareness.
When you become aware of that awareness...
Yes, it becomes more exotic.
Isn't that an odd thing to exist? I mean, in a fundamental sense, like...
Well, yes.
How did that happen? I mean, isn't it a strange phenomena that you are what you are? And now, the mystery of being an existing entity of some kind is really fascinating to me. And I think it's worthy of spending time with and trying to dig into that and to draw it out of myself. It seems like it is.
Now, is this at a point of being aware of this? Is this then how enlightenment can be defined? Or can we even define enlightenment?
The doorway for me is becoming aware of my own awareness. That's like an entry point to understand and to go deeper into realizing awareness and to realizing who I am and what I am. The doorway is to actually detach my awareness from what I'm being aware of for just enough time to get a hint at awareness itself. And I model it as awareness being aware of itself, pure awareness being aware of itself, to just become really familiar with that. And then out of that comes enlightenment. It's the light of consciousness. It's the light of knowing. It's a pure knowing of, I don't know, it's really hard to put into words because the concepts are so hard to deal with.
Do some of the Eastern religions deal with this concept a lot more than some of our Western religions?
Yeah, like Buddhism is the religion of enlightenment. It's all about this guy Buddha who sat down and got this enlightenment experience and then spent the next 40-something years describing it. It's the most documented enlightenment on earth.
What is truth?
These are tough questions. I know there's this kind of truth that is like, how many nickels do you have in your pocket? And if there are really 3 of them in there, and you said 3, that would be the truth. There are 3 nickels in my pocket. That's the truth, right? I mean, it's not mystical at all. It's just this truth. And we all live on that level of truth. But there's another kind of a level of truth, which is, or not a level of truth, I don't know what that means, but another way of taking the truth, which has to do with what's a nickel, or what happens in that moment when we know that we have a nickel in our pocket or 3 nickels in our pocket. What happens internally in the moment of becoming conscious of something directly, and how much of that is illusion and how much of it is reality. And as you begin to investigate that, it really destabilizes your head, because it's like reality is this nice firm thing in a way. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, it's reality, we trust reality. But as you get into enlightenment process, it's like, it's not all that clear. Mm-hmm. What part is just being made up in your mind and which part is real.